contract. The
Do I have a-
STARS contract.
Do we have a second?
Second. I'll second.
All right, all in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously. We will now move on to item 1D, TDOE pilot plan. Mrs.
The
Masters?
different stars that has the college savings program. Sorry, I'm tired. But I need to know the development director for this stars.
Cut off.
I'm losing it. Okay, deep breath. Okay, so I pulled this one for discussion as well because this is it's kind of a big deal. Because just to sort of refresh everyone's memory, we voted on a contract about this school intervention plan for Jerry Baxter Middle School. And it is the result of state legislation. Senate Bill 122. And what that puts into place is this program where the state chooses, was 20 schools statewide that are priority schools, 10 of them to be in a sort of control group and 10 of them to actually receive contracted intervention services. There is a fiscal note attached to that. So the funds that we voted to approve were state funds to pay a consulting firm. We were given 2 consulting firms to choose from by the state. We chose one, put the committee into place, and the work at Jerry Baxter has begun. And I really wanted to, again, in the interest of transparency around this and in the interest of us fully acknowledging that this program is the result of the state, in essence, taking over one of our middle schools or taking over a whole lot of the operations, the operational planning for one of our middle schools. Given that middle school is in my district, I also want to point out that Dr. Battle had already put into place an amazing principal who already had begun a lot of really important interventions and procedures from the very beginning. We were already starting to see changes at that school, changes in the school culture, changes in the outcomes. So all that to say, while yes, the school is in priority status, what you see in the plan presented for us to approve is very much also a reflection of interventions that had already been put in place before this consulting firm came on board. Having sit in on quite a bit of the planning process, because the school board member got to be on the committee, and then having attended some of the wrap-up sessions that included the consultant, they were good at their jobs and did a lovely job. I will say that a lot of the motivations and decision-making was very much led by the school team and by our MMPS team, which I appreciated that, and they did a great job. They showed themselves to be highly knowledgeable and ready for the tasks at hand. This legislation allows us as a board to either accept the plan as presented or to present our own plan for turnaround, also in conjunction with the committee. The consultant will be paid $125,000 a year for 4 years and an additional $500,000 should the school move out of priority status. And again, that's not something MMPS decided. All that to say, I just want us to be highly aware, and I want to state for the record that we are in a situation where it's highly likely that this school was headed in that direction anyway because of the very strong leadership. And that $500,000 will not go to the benefit of Jerry Baxter Middle School at the end. Not saying that the $125,000 a year going to the consultants isn't helping Jerry Baxter in some way, because there are some educational experts helping, being a part of the team. But I just want to point out in this larger conversation about state-level funding for Davidson County, there's $500,000 investment that could have been put to very good use at Jerry Baxter Middle School through decisions made by Jerry Baxter Middle School. So I just had to say my piece about that. And also, I feel like, I see members of the team here, and I sat in on it, so if anyone had, I know that it's unfortunate Mr. Little isn't here this evening because he had a lot of questions about it when we did the contract to begin with, but if anyone had any questions about it, about the legislation, about the fiscal note attached to it, about the process, I just think it's a really important thing for that school to understand and for us as a district to understand what was happening there. And I think it's really, really important that we acknowledge the good work being done by Jerry Baxter Middle School staff.
And shout out to the Jerry Baxter staff in the audience.
And they're still here after all this time.
There's also my dad out there, but neither here nor there.
Oh. I didn't even know that.
All right, so does there any other discussion around this? Go right ahead, Mrs. Pooper-Walker.
First, I want to say thank you, Emily, for giving your time to this work. I don't think when you run for office, you think you're going to sit on a school turnaround team. But some of the most important work we can probably do is sit in and help a school, and bring that perspective. I will say that school turnaround of priority schools is a perpetual, feels like experiment, right? That we have not always cracked that nut as a state. And I want to just say for the record that dismantling the school board and creating a different model of governance for us is not an evidence-based strategy to address school turnaround. And so I just think people need to be careful about imposing an agenda onto something as critically important as that.
Can I add one more thing?
What'd you say?
Can I add one more thing?
Go right ahead.
I also want to add that while I don't hesitate to say that I think we're okay to move forward with adopting this plan. I do feel that at some point, some of the language was wordsmithed in a way that reflects negatively on some of the past practices of the school unnecessarily. So I just kind of want to put that caveat out there. While I think the overall plan is okay, and I know that Dr. Battle, from what I understand, was really hopeful that it could align with our strategic plan and our core tenets as a district so that Jerry Baxter can continue to exist as a part of our school system and not have to be sort of set aside for these 4 years to follow its own plan. And I do think efforts were made to follow that. But what I really don't want is for the team at Jerry Baxter to read any of the language in this and think, wow, they thought I didn't do such a great job last year. They thought I wasn't trying to connect with parents, because that was not at all, from my experience with being a part of the committee, the intention of it. And I do think that some of the language is unnecessarily negative. Just throwing that out there.
Mrs. Player?
Twin. Motion to approve the contract.
Do we have a second?
The pilot plan.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? All abstaining?
I'm abstaining.
Okay. All right, we will now, oh goodness, we will now move forward to announcements. I take that back, I'm sorry, we shifted 2 weeks ago from committee reports. Are there any committee updates or reports that have occurred in the last 2 weeks? I'm sorry, reports from committee meetings that have occurred in the last 2 weeks.
Including today or not including today?
Go ahead and include today for anyone that,
Okay.
just a quick recap.
We had a budget and finance meeting. Dr. Battle presented a lovely presentation. Look in your agenda. And we will have a budget and finance meeting in 2 weeks where we have a work session to get into the details. The PowerPoint presented the continuity of service, the cost with that, and then cost of the aspirational budget.
Thank you. We also had a board retreat. I'll be following up with Dr. Severe about scheduling that Title IX training that has been mandated by the city. We also began conversations then about the budget and set priorities there. We will likely, Mrs. Player Peters, talk about another budget meeting and see if we need to have a second retreat sometime in April or May. Advocacy, did you have any reports, any reporting out you'd like to share?
I can share it during announcements since we didn't officially have a meeting.
Okay, then, you know what, we'll switch it up. Anjali, would you mind starting us out for announcements?
Okay. I'll start by saying Happy International Women's Day. Second, congratulations to all 16 of my senior peers who are named National Merit Finalists. Special shout out to my best friend, Rudra Patel, and I know he's going to hate me for saying that. But thank you for all those who attended the 3rd Annual Youth Climate Summit led by the Cumberland River Compact this past Saturday. With that, I want to extend a huge congratulations to all students who participated in the Tennessee DECA state competition this past weekend, and congratulate all those who qualified for the International DECA Conference, which will take place next month in Atlanta. MNPS was very well represented in yet another competition, so I just wanted to say congratulations. And because I get to go first, I just want to say congratulations to Ebenezer and all other students who received acceptances to one of the many Tennessee Governor schools. I went to school for international studies in Memphis last summer, and it's truly one of the greatest experiences that I've had offered to me. I met some of my best friends and I just had the best time. So I highly encourage anyone to take the advantage for next year and following years too. With this, I wanted to say that there's a lot going on in the world right now. Let's not underplay the current state of what's happening, the atrocities that are allowed to be carried out. Move past the selfish tendencies that are drawn from personal inconveniences and educate yourself on the tough realities that many are currently facing outside of the city, outside of the state, outside of this country. Finally, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who sent support to me and Ebenezer since the last board meeting, as well as this board's discretion to ensure the safety of the student board members as well as the rest of the student body. So, per a saying my parents had instilled in me growing up, be kind and think before you speak. I want to preface this by saying that I do not say any of this seeking for applause or praise. I say it because I intend to fulfill my role and represent the students. It's appalling how individuals, adults, students, leaders, are deemed as unintelligent because of their views that may differ from yours. Is that what we're teaching our students? Is it okay to come with threats and rude words just because things don't go your way or when you're met with oppositions? Let's emphasize on respect and create an environment where people can offer constructive criticism because dissent is okay. Let's lead by example. Let's focus on student voice and students' choices because regardless if it's this board or parents, students' stances are oftentimes drowned out by adults' final say. So I would encourage the adults who speak in the space to reflect on your intent and how you articulate your points. Students are watching you, and you have a lot of influence on how we may view things. But it should not be my responsibility or any other student's responsibility to call out adults on behavior that is frowned upon for younger individuals. Anything that is said in this room, especially towards Ebenezer and I, does not stay in this room, as every student is being represented. Thank you.
Thank you. I told you the children will save us. All right, Mrs. Tyler.
Well, first of all, I want to let you guys know how much we value you and what you say, and I'm going to continue to ask your opinion on things because we're here to represent students, and that's who you are, and that's who you represent. And again, a reminder to adults to be adults and to treat one another with kindness and to stay away from attacking student board members. That is just... I don't understand it. I don't understand that compulsion to attack somebody who is a student. Moving on, I want to also congratulate the 16 National Merit Scholarship finalists, especially Hillwood High School's Rudra Patel. And on a personal note, today's my middle son's birthday, so happy birthday, Aiden.
Nice. Mrs. Masters?
Thank you. So I did want to mention that the Parent Advisory Council will be here at the board meeting on March 22nd to present their annual report to sort of go over all of the good work that they have done over this past year. I also wanted, I know I'm talking about Jerry Baxter a lot tonight, but I wanted to give a shout out to Jerry Baxter. Both their boys and girls basketball teams had really good seasons, and with the help of Mr. Robert Taylor and Fisk University, the students were able to go to a Grizzlies game in Memphis, which was very exciting and wonderful, and yay, field trips. Yay, field trips. So that was an exciting opportunity for them. Also wanted to thank the Nashville Scene for the first ever student issue featuring our student board members on lots of very compelling topics. I encourage you to pick it up and read all about them and their thoughts on things. And there was also a student essay contest, and the top essay was by Mackenzie Bransford, a senior at Nashville School of the Arts. And full disclosure, I do work for the organization that helped with that essay contest, but I did not read the essays or have any part in choosing the winners because I would have been too biased because I knew too many of the kids that submitted essays. So it's just a really exciting issue, and it really, when we want to talk about, getting in the heads of students and what it's really been like for them through this difficult, interesting time, I thought it did a nice job of illuminating that. Then on the advocacy piece, I just would like to encourage everyone to pay attention what is going on in the state legislature right now when it comes to the new funding formula bill. It was rolled today, so it'll be in an education subcommittee again Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. And you can email me directly if you want me to tell you which legislators are on that committee. You can also look it up, but I just encourage you to be in touch with your legislators. If you have relationships with legislators outside of Davidson County, all the better, because of course they all get to vote on it. And let them know that you're not okay with Davidson County schools being shortchanged in this funding formula, and that you're not okay with the considerably higher cost of living in Nashville and in our urban districts not being considered and not being given any kind of weight in this formula. So I do encourage you to advocate. I know I talked at the last meeting a lot about advocating about things that really matter, and this really, really matters and could have a long-term impact on our schools. So I think that's it.
Thank you. Mrs. Player?
Again, happy International Women's Day. Women rock. Woo-hoo. Also, congratulations to Lakeisha Rayford, who won the Community Favorite Award at the inaugural Nashville Public Education Teacherpreneur event. She's at Glencliff Elementary in my district, so congratulations for that. And then all congratulations to Miss Angeline over here. She's being bashful. But I am an alum of this program of YMCA Youth in Government, and she was selected on the Conference on National Affairs. It's been so long since I was a part of that, a long time ago when I was a high school student. So I'm just happy that someone's following the same program, and then one day she'll be duly elected just like me.
I love that. All right, Vice Chair Elrod.
Thank you. So first I want to say congratulations to several Overton Bobcats. First, we have Vivian Mariscal, and she won the state title for her weight class in wrestling, so that's really exciting for her. The picture of her is so great. If you go to the Overton Twitter account, it is just exuberant. Additionally, and there's also a great picture of her with Dr. Battle. Thank you for going and cheering her on. Additionally, I would like to provide some congratulations, and this is just to their first names. Jojo, Lance, Roberto, Montserrat, and Fatima, they all earned the Bell Tower Scholarship. The Bell Tower Scholarship provides a 4-year scholarship to Belmont, and all of those, again, are Overton students, so congratulations to them. Again, Anjali mentioned the DECA International Championships that are happening next month, but she did fail to mention that she additionally qualified for them. And so, good job. And also, she stole my thunder, and congratulations on Governor's School. I also want to thank Tusculum Elementary. They invited me to read for Read Me Week last week. That was a really exciting experience. I was so glad to do it in person. I spent most of my day Friday at the school and read with, I think, 7 classrooms at the end of the day. So thank you so much to the organization of it, through Tara and Mary Gildry for organizing all those visits. I know that was a lot of work. And then lastly, I just kind of want to make, like a lot of my colleagues, a statement that if you participate in public participation, then you are addressing us as a Board of Education, as an elected official, and not our student board members, but also not our employees, like our teachers and staff. And I want to make sure that we're really clear about that, as that's not appropriate, as if they also would have addressed you as well. So make sure that we have some decorum and civility, please. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Mrs. Bush?
Yes. So my announcement, as I sit here tonight and I listen through public comments, every time we have them, it seems like the same thing keeps coming up every single time. And yet this board doesn't address those things every single time. Teacher shortages. Where's your hand for that? But you got it for masks. Bus driver shortages. Where's your hand? You got it for masks. Support staff. Underpaid. I'm so tired of Honey coming. I like Honey. But Honey wants her money along with the other support staffs. And how long are we going to keep this pay study going? Okay? Raise your hand to that. Okay? Little to no substitutes. Raise your hand for that, board. But you raise your hand for mask. Failure with wit and wisdom. Where's your hand? Raise your hand to that, board. But you raise your hands for mask. Sub-pay. Where's the sub-pay? Where's the teacher sub-pay for the extra work they do? You hear it over and over and over again. But you raise your hand for that. Where's your hand for that? But you talk about, you raise your hand for mask. And yet, you focus so much on that, which is such a distraction, that we have all these issues that we have that our students are not learning. They are not in a place and space where they couldn't even be college and career ready. We do have a lot of children, but we have the majority of children that are not learning. And it's not the teacher's fault. They're doing the best they can. So by the end of the semester, when we start losing more teachers, let's raise our hand on how we're going to fix it. Mask should never be another distraction. We should stay focused on our priorities on this board. All of you guys, I'm looking at all of you, focus on what our priorities are. Focus. It's all about something totally opposite from what we should be focused on. Our elementary students, they can't read, barely writing, barely. But you know what the teachers tell me? We were just told we just have to meet them halfway. We just have to meet them halfway. So what are we going to do? Are we going to raise our hand to go back to our priorities? Our priorities is all of these things I listed that we're having a problem. So what are we going to do? You going to go sub? You going to go sub? You going to go volunteer? Because we're losing teachers. We don't have enough subs. We don't have enough bus drivers. Are we going to get our CDL license? But those who already have them already have the education as far as their teaching degrees and their CDLs and everything else they have in order to be productive in our district, because they are in the trenches and they are the professionals. But yet they're leaving, they're leaving, they're leaving, they're leaving. Where's your hand? Where's your hand? Are we going to help them stop it? I want to. I want to stay focused on what's right for our children. That's what I got my hand up for. But all we do is just somehow try to go away from the grain of what we should be focused on. It's ridiculous. And we should be ashamed of ourselves. Let's get back focused on what we should be doing as a board, making sure that this district is moving in the right direction, making sure our students are educated, make sure the ones that don't have, make sure the ones that need to get scholarships so we can support them. I'm proud of our student board members, but we need thousands of more like them. Thousands. We need to support them. I love to hear it. I want to hear more of it. Because the rate we're going right now, we have lost generations with an S. And we have a lot of work to do. And I take this seriously because our students are suffering. And we need to stay focused on what is our priorities on this board, making sure that they're educated, making sure we stay focused and keep teachers in the classroom. Bus drivers. We lost 30 bus drivers since last July. Did you know that? It's a lot. So let's stay focused on our priorities and let's move on. It's time to re-enter our environment as normal as possible so our students who are paying attention, who are watching, our parents who are paying attention and are watching, we need to stay focused on our priorities. And they're tired of it. And Nashville looks great. Our school district should look great. But we're not there yet. We still have a long way to go. And our priorities were not focused. And I'm getting very frustrated because you have a due diligence to make sure that these students are getting the support they need so they can academically be college, career, and trade ready. Those big buildings downtown, we're not going to be able to fill them up with our students because we have to focus on getting them to that level where they can be able to be corporate if that's what they choose. You can blow all you want to because I'm blowing because I'm pissed. Because I'm tired of us veering off and doing something totally different from what we need to be doing. Teacher shortages, bus driver shortages, support staff unpaid, little to no substitutes, failure with wit and wisdom. I know you're tired of listening to it. I am too. I am too. So until we can start focusing and making sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do, a due diligence to our people who are in the trenches, then I'm going to keep having a conversation, until things are finally done, until this board starts to prioritize. That's what we should do. I'm offended that I got little students that don't know how to read. I'm offended that our literacy and numeracy is way down. We all should be. It's not about my 5 boys. It's about 80,000 more students to me. And let's make sure that they are ready for life. So get your priorities together. At least do that. That's why you're on this board.
Thank you, Mrs. Poopa-Walker.
So my priority as a board member is to do my due diligence, which includes a superintendent evaluation, which includes coming to finance committee meetings and weighing in on the priorities for our billion-dollar budget, which includes, participating and engaging in a way that is aligned to what we were elected to do. And so I'm good with my focus. I'm good with the due diligence that I'm doing. And so I want to salute my board members who are also doing the same thing and not up here making a campaign speech. I would like to congratulate all the students who got Bridges to Belmont scholarships. Super exciting. Thank you, Belmont. Want to celebrate School Social Worker Week. We love our social workers. Also want to congratulate Hillsborough girls basketball team, regional champs. And I want to thank all the women in my life, my mother, my sisters, my daughter, my board members, my friends. Love you all. Couldn't do it without you.
Thank you, Mrs. Poopa-Walker. Dr.
Thank you,
Gentry.
Mrs. Poopa-Walker. So I want to actually acknowledge Women's History Month. It's okay. It's all right. Super excited about it. Yeah, he's an ally. So, we brag about this board being mostly women. And so I do want to thank you all for tonight's meeting, right? We talked a lot about a lot of great things that are happening in the district, a lot of great initiatives. So thank you, Dr. Battle, for that report, and thank you to your staff for getting up here and sharing and answering all of our questions. It's always greatly, greatly appreciated. There are great things happening in this district. We talked about last meeting some great outcomes and some great scores and growth where we're outpacing, right? The state, is that right? Yeah. Here in Nashville-Davidson County. We know that through funding challenges and some leadership challenges, we're digging ourselves out of a hole. But we're digging. And I then again want to thank you, Dr. Battle, for that. I want to thank you also earlier for the discussion about our priorities, which we do through our budget. And so thank you, Mrs. Player-Peters, for leading us in that discussion where we revisited the priorities that were established by this board. And we talked about those things. We talked about teacher pay. We talked about support staff pay and what that's going to cost and what that ask is going to be. We know that we may be challenged in getting another $88 million. But there are going to be some hard decisions that this board needs to make so that our priorities are recognized and reflected. The priorities of any organization is in its budget and budgeting. On another note, Jeannie stole my thunder. I had a couple of F-bombs I wanted to drop today, but she apologized. So I feel a little undermined, so I'm going to let that slide. But I do want to, again, as Ms. Elrod, I got the opportunity to participate in Read Me Day in person and not over Zoom. So that was super exciting over at Churchwell Elementary. And to thank Mrs. Frida Player-Peters and Christian Buggs, who led or participated in a panel yesterday. It was just yesterday.
No, yesterday.
That was yesterday. No, Monday.
Yesterday
Okay.
was Monday.
Hours ago.
Educating a bunch of women who are members of the Links Incorporated in what is known in the Central area. They come from across the state of Tennessee, representing living in those large urban school districts, and they did a phenomenal job of answering a lot of questions and giving great explanation about what BEP is, what it isn't, the challenges it provides and imposes for large urban school districts, and that's the kind of messaging and advocating we need to do as board members, and they volunteered to do that for me, and I greatly appreciate that as well. So part of our job is advocacy. Part of our job is to understand that to bear this burden and to lift and to elevate this district requires us to not necessarily chastise, but to go out and let others understand who have an impact on our ability to do that they do have a responsibility to provide us with assistance so that we have the right resources to put into place the appropriate levers to make the change. And that does go from what we do in the classroom and how we support our certificated, our non-certificated employees as well. So I want to thank each of you who come here a couple of times a week, and then everything you do between coming here a couple of times a month, on behalf of our students, our teachers, and our family, and all of those individuals who serve in any role when it comes to educating our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gentry. Ebenezer.
Thank you. Yeah, I do want to recognize today as Women's. We do celebrate women, and I want to celebrate the most important woman in my life, which is my mother. And I want to give her a shout out because even to this day, she still wakes me up at 6 a.m., even though I'm 17. I own an alarm clock. She wants me to, start my day with a kind conversation with her, and it reflects on how important women play in our society as not only mothers, but in every other aspect. I also want to talk about Quest Bridge, which is a beautiful program for high schoolers, and their College Prep Scholars Program is open for application until March 24th, Thursday, and they're basically trying to help students who come from backgrounds that might not, let them be able to compete with other students that might have a better background because of, money and other aspects. So to all juniors, you have until March 24th to apply and to be part of something that can be very helpful. I also want to give a shout out to the MLK basketball team. We did win district and region, but we sadly lost yesterday and sub-state, but no matter what, we still played very great, and we showed our school spirit and also our MNPS spirit, and I'm really proud of them. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you so much, Ebenezer. I want to first say that everyone should be watching the legislature right now. Tuesdays and Wednesdays are days that most education amendments or bills are proposed. You can stream them online. You are certainly welcome to go to the Capitol just to see it in person and understand the democratic process. It might enlighten you, because it certainly enlightened me, and it was the reason that I ended up running for a school board seat, just understanding the kinds of conversations they were having around education. So again, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, typically at 11 a.m. on Tuesdays, 2 p.m. on Tuesdays, 3 p.m. on Wednesdays in the Senate. So please, please, please go to capitol.tn.gov. You can look at the agendas. You can see the amendments. You can't see caption bills. That'll be another conversation for another day about the sneakiness, but just know that you can at least see basic policy. I want to shout out Pencil for their continued tutoring efforts. I have enjoyed being able to tutor my student at John Early, and anyone in the community. I think the time has passed to be able to sign up for a new. Oh no, you can still sign up. You can still sign up to tutor. The school board. Our staff, community members can sign up to tutor our students to make sure that we meet benchmarks and that our students are getting all the resources that they need. It's only 30 minutes a day, 3 days a week. It moves very quickly, but it is so worth it and so enlightening. I thank those people that came to join us today for public participation, or just to again participate in our democratic process. And we will often disagree, because none of us are a monolith. We will all have different ideas, ideals, and foci. But please continue to come out and engage the school board. And I thank you for doing so appropriately. I said what I said. We did have a 4 o'clock budget meeting today. Unfortunately, everyone couldn't be there to talk about the priorities around staffing and funding, but we will continue to have those. Again, we might even engage in a new retreat. At the same time, Dr. Gentry, I'll follow up with you, because maybe this time everyone can engage in the director's evaluation. We can have all 9 board members actually evaluate our only employees. So I'll follow up with you about what the next evaluation cycle will look like. The substitute shortage. I think last year there was an engagement on Facebook with some teachers around having parents sign up to be subs. Unfortunately, I found out that the school board cannot substitute, but we certainly engaged, or certainly would encourage the rest of the community to consider signing up to be a substitute teacher. It really is a rewarding experience, especially if you get with the little babies, but I don't want to ignore the big babies. So with that, there's so much more that I could say and want to say, but be there no further business. This meeting is adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.
We have the period of time, and most of the time when we hear of people that come up and they express their concerns, most of the time the council makes the decision that goes against what many of them want. So I think we have to be honest and true to them. If this is going to truly be a community-driven engagement, and we really we need to have outcomes that reflect what it is that the community says that they want. And we've got to at least have those type of discussions in a really true, honest fashion. It's really disheartening for me, because to see that we put so much time and effort trying to do the right thing, and what is already in the cards to be done is done, regardless of what it is. And as people say, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And too many times, even as council members, I found us being on the menu and not truly at the table.
Thank you. Other comments? So, We have a motion and a second and a good discussion, which I appreciate. Don't worry about hurting my feelings. But if this feels like a good idea, that's okay too. So that being said, all those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? All right. I'm going to ask for a show of hands. I mean, I appreciate the discussion, and I need folks to help me out just a little bit. So all those in favor? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 in favor. Any against? Just abstaining. All right. We will note this when we bring it before the council. I think this is an important discussion. I understand the concerns, and I appreciate the discussion. So what I understand is, excuse me? There are 2 people who haven't done anything.
Well, you didn't ask for abstentions.
2, okay. So I have 5 in favor. Were there any against? Abstentions? 2 abstentions. There were 9 people in the room. Okay. Thank you for that conversation. Next is bills on second reading. This is BL 2021-912, sponsors Alan O'Connell, SWOR, and others, amends the Metro Code to create a mechanism for the implementation of the Inclusionary Housing Incentive Program. Do I have a motion? Moved and seconded. I have a late filed amendment with a brief explanation. This is a bill that is a partner bill to BL 2021-832, which is on public hearing tomorrow night. This amendment simply spells out that the assessor's office would be the entity that is in charge of the calculations on how additional property tax generated by the bonus height program in downtown would provide the funding for the subsidy to pay for the gap in affordability in housing. That would be a certain amount would be set aside as a percentage of the additional square footage that is added through the bonus height program in the downtown code. So we discussed this in 2 other meetings. I hope you all have already heard this explanation. So that is all the amendment does. Are there any questions on the amendment? Then we can discuss the bill in just a second. No questions on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment, say aye. Any opposed? Are we down to 7? Okay, great. Thank you. All right, on the bill as amended, I would move for approval with a brief explanation. We've had a good meeting with the downtown partners on this. They had some good comments that we may well need to incorporate further down the line, so this may end up being deferred at third reading, but I would ask for your approval at this point, and we'll continue to tweak and try to receive input on it. Any comments? Councilmember Mendez.
Is there a fiscal analysis on this yet?
There has been calculations sent to, this should be revenue neutral. It's designed to create its own revenue.
So, but I don't think the analysis has a fiscal analysis.
We do not have a fiscal analysis.
All right.
Would you like one by third reading?
Well, I mean, I'm, as you know, I'm a doubter on that, about what the fiscal analysis is. So I definitely need to see that.
There should be a spreadsheet on your desk. Do you have that?
I see an Excel spreadsheet that is got some red boxes on it.
That's it. So that is based on information provided by the assessor's office on the market value for rents downtown and for valuation of properties downtown, that shows for a typical building downtown what the square footage is, what the cost to build it would be, what the cost to rent it would be, and what the difference for different AMIs would be on the rent, and how that could be subsidized by the additional property tax, using 50% of the additional property tax.
All right. So whenever we get a fiscal analysis, like, I know finance, the reason for that amendment was that their position has, at least several months ago, their position was they couldn't begin to figure out what the numbers would be. And I am interested in finance signing off on whatever the fiscal analysis is whenever we get a fiscal analysis.
Okay.
I need to see that at some point. And then I guess it's been several months, but when I first asked about the various affordability levels and percentages that are in this bill, I got the sense that there's nothing terribly scientific about it. It's just sort of a starting place to try for a pilot period.
Those numbers came from this 2015 study that was done by EPS out of Denver when they did the whole affordability study. Since getting the information from the assessor's office and meeting with the downtown partnership, the folks that they put together with us, I've run those numbers past them, and I'm happy to get finance to sign off because they are much more qualified to do that than I am. But that at least provides something based on what the numbers downtown are.
So is that something you expect to get amended on third reading, is the way the percentages lay out in the charts in this bill?
Yeah, their suggestion was that it made more sense to base percentages on the additional floor square footage that was added as opposed to the entire building, which I think does make sense, and that does adjust the percentages. So that is an amendment that would be expected before third reading. And again, this may be deferred to allow more time to do that.
And this is amendable on third?
BL 912 is not amendable on third, but BL 832, which is where the mechanism is actually spelled out, is in the zoning code, and that is amendable on third reading.
All right, and then the other question I guess I have is, so I think the trial period for this is 3 years until 2025, and it's clear in the language that if it's not reapproved by resolution after 3 years, then there's no new deals, but the existing ones stay in effect. And I guess the interplay that I've been trying to figure out is, so Metro is never writing a check under this, right?
Technically, property taxes are directed into this fund in 912, which is what we're creating. And MDHA receives money from that fund. MDHA has a master lease agreement, and they will write a check for the full value of the rent.
So every year's operating budget has to basically reauthorize this essentially to sidetrack property tax revenue for certain properties over to MDHA, if I'm understanding correctly.
To Fund 912.
Right.
Which is what, I mean, the fund that is created by this Bill 912.
And so if the program didn't get reauthorized after 3 years, we'd still have to, every single year, have the operating budget have a specific, like I think it's more than a line item. I think the operating budget's going to have a paragraph in the first couple pages that says, hey, we're sidetracking some property tax revenue pursuant to 912 to pay for MDHA for certain things. And if any given year we take that paragraph out of the budget, then the program dies and all the units go to market immediately, if I'm understanding correctly.
I would have to defer to someone in the finance office to tell me how paragraphs in the budget that are ongoing items come and go.
I mean, this is part of the deal where we don't get to sidetrack property tax revenue more than 1 year in advance. So we can say we're going to do this, but it's subject to authorization every year. And I understand that any given year, if we don't include, hey, we're sidetracking X amount of property tax dollars to pay MDHA for this program off the top before we get to any other expenditures, if we stop that, affordability ends immediately, as I understand it. I've understood that that's why the lobbyist who wrote this in the first place was fired up about it, because from the builder's perspective, what do they care whether Metro continues the program or not? They get their extra height no matter what, and if Metro a couple years down the road decides not to put it in the budget, then they've got their extra height and they get to rent the units at market. And it's been a while since I've read the details. I just want to make sure I'm understanding that correctly still.
As it is written, it sets aside that money, and if that has to be done every year in the budget, then then I cannot dispute that.
All right. Well, I guess I'm just personally happy to keep talking about it. I can't vote yes on second reading until there's a fiscal analysis. I'd be interested in deferring it till we found out that it is revenue neutral with finance signing off on that also. But I understand if you want to move it forward.
And try to get that information for third reading. Thank you for that discussion. Other questions? Appreciate that information. Are we ready to vote? All those in favor? Any opposed? 2. Thank you. So, who is left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. 6 in favor, 2 against. Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. Good discussion. Next is BL 2022-1120, sponsors Evans, Allen, and Sawara, approves a contract between Metro Nashville Police Department and the Mental Health Cooperative to ensure the implementation of mental health training for Metro Police Department personnel by the Mental Health Cooperative clinical personnel. Do you have a motion? Thank you. Second? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstaining? We recommend approval. 8 in favor, 0 against. All right, is there any other business that needs to come before the group? Seeing none, we are adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.
Here in Metro Nashville, all property owners are expected to maintain their properties in good condition for their own sake and those of their surrounding neighbors. It is the responsibility of the Metro Codes Department to enforce the property standards laws by responding to reports from the community and from routine neighborhood inspections. Here you can see a house that is dilapidated. While these are Metro-owned properties, slated for eventual demolition, and therefore not typical, they do serve as examples of properties that are in need of repair, or, if no longer inhabited, how to properly board up the windows to remain in code compliance. A common problem in Nashville is junk, trash, and debris, which is generally anything that obviously shouldn't be in a yard area, such as used tires, mattresses, other non-decorative items, or inappropriate furniture. If you've got large items that need to be picked up, set them by your curb and call 311 to have them removed. Parking cars on grass or dirt is prohibited in Nashville. They must be parked on gravel or pavement at all times, and no more than 25% of a property's lot can be used for parking without special permission. You are also not allowed to store unlicensed or inoperable cars on your property that are visible to the public, which includes those inside a carport. Such cars can only be stored in an enclosed garage. Additionally, while you may make small repairs to your vehicle, such as changing brakes or tires, major repairs cannot be performed in your driveway. You will also notice that these properties have not had the proper premises identification. This is a quick fix by stopping by your local hardware store and picking up numbers that can either be drilled or stuck on to allow your house to be identified by members of the community and by first responders. The minimum height for residential building identification is 3 inches. The minimum height for commercial or multifamily buildings is 6 inches. Other common problems in neighborhoods are tall grass and weeds. Anytime grass or weeds are more than 12 inches high, it is a violation of the code. High grass can detract from the visual quality of the neighborhood and can attract unwanted pests and rodents. At Metro Codes, our goal is not to punish people, but to get them to take care of their properties in a way that respects and benefits the neighborhood and community. When an inspector sees violations, the first step is typically to issue an abatement notice to correct the violations. This serves as a warning to the property owner to fix the problems by a certain time in order to avoid further problems. If they don't correct their problems, the next step is environmental court. The maximum penalty is $50 per day per violation, which can quickly add up to significant amounts of money. Now that you know more about property standards violations, if you see one out in the community, you can let the Codes Department know by calling 311, going to hub.nashville.gov, or by downloading the Hub app on your smartphone today. Thank you for taking the time to care about your community.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.
The purpose of wastewater treatment is to rid the water of disease-causing bacteria and solid waste.
Wastewater can include sewage from homes and businesses, groundwater that seeps into the sewer pipes during rain, street runoff that finds its way into the sewer system through manhole covers, and, in the older parts of the city, through storm drains.
Wastewater flows downhill by gravity through sewer mains or pipes to pumping stations. Pumping stations pump the wastewater up Nashville's hills when necessary.
Metro Water Services operates 3 wastewater treatment plants: Dry Creek, Central, and Whites Creek.
The Whites Creek Wastewater Treatment Plant receives wastewater from Whites Creek, Bordeaux Hills, and West Park pumping stations and treats an average of 37.5 million gallons of wastewater a day. The wastewater plant runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 2 operators are on shift at all times. Incoming wastewater, or influent, is made up of approximately 99% water and less than 1% solids. This wastewater plant is designed to allow water to flow downhill using only gravity as it flows from the influent structure through the basins where the wastewater is cleaned and finally back into the Cumberland River. After entering the plant, the wastewater is slowed down and aerated at the grit tanks to allow heavier materials such as gravel and coffee grounds to settle out. The grit is removed with traveling buckets and disposed of in the landfill. Disposable wipes, often improperly disposed of in the toilet, wind around the machinery throughout the plant, causing damage and requiring extra maintenance and downtime.
Hey, you at home, help me and the people at Metro Water out. Only put toilet paper in the john.
The water, now cleaned of grit, flows into the primary tanks. Grease from kitchen waste and street runoff float to the top, along with some trash. Organic solids settle to the bottom of the almost 9-foot deep tank. The sludge is scraped off and sent for further processing at the biosolids facility where it is processed for beneficial reuse. The floating scum is skimmed off the top and sent off to be processed with the sludge.
At this point in the process, most of the solids have been removed and the wastewater is noticeably cleaner.
The wastewater enters the secondary biological treatment area. These 15-foot deep aeration tanks are the workhorse of the treatment plant. Air is pumped into the wastewater by blowers to keep aerobic bacteria alive. The bacteria, referred to as bugs, consume the food provided by the wastewater, further cleaning the water. The water at this point appears brown due to the microorganisms. The second phase of secondary treatment occurs in the final clarification tanks. Arms move across the top of the tank, removing any remaining floating solids. Gravity pulls the settled bacteria into the arms on the bottom of the tank and through a pipe to the return well. Pumps return some of the bacteria to the aeration tanks to continue working. Some of the bacteria is sent on to be processed with the sludge, a procedure referred to as wasting. Bacteria are returned or wasted to maintain the proper amount and age of bacteria needed in the aeration tanks. The final step is disinfection by ultraviolet light. The light disrupts the DNA in bacteria and prevents them from reproducing.
The effluent, wastewater that has been cleaned of trash, organic solids, and harmful bacteria, is returned to the Cumberland River. The entire process takes approximately 24 hours from beginning to end.
The EPA regulates wastewater treatment.
Metro Water Services staff test the wastewater to maintain a quality effluent and to adjust aeration as needed. For a little more than $1 a day on average, Nashvillians are able to dispose of their wastewater in a safe and environmentally friendly manner. What a bargain! For more information on Nashville's water system, please visit our website.
Being a plein air painter, for me, the best part is being able to do your work outside.